Hello students and welcome back. So for today's lesson 11.3, the objective is I will be able to use a protractor to measure an angle and draw an angle of a given measure. So let's take a look. First, what is a protractor? You might have seen something like this before. A protractor is a tool used to measure an angle. Think of a straight ruler, but it's turned because when we measure an angle, it can look like a part of a circle. Now, to use a protractor, we follow these 3 steps. These 3 steps are the ones written in your notebook. First, you choose a ray to be the bottom. So remember, when we look at a ray, one side is an endpoint and the other is an arrow. Then we place the center point of the protractor on the point and have the bottom of the ray point to 0. So that looks like this. Here's our protractor. See the center circle of the protractor? It looks like this. This center circle is always measured up with the vertex, or the point of the angle. Then we have these little guidelines right here, and we use these guidelines to line up the ray on the bottom. Notice this red line here is our ray. That bottom ray should always point directly to 0. Then step 3, we use the numbers along the side to count up from 0 to measure the angle. Stop when you get to the next ray. So this part can be a little confusing, but there's always one rule you remember. We always count up from 0. So notice the number 0 is here and the number 180 is here. Well, we never count up from the number 180. Just like normal, when we count up, we always start with 0 first. So we look just at the numbers along the inside. So we count from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So then our angle measure would be 50 degrees. Let's practice again. So first, we choose the ray to be the bottom. So on this one, we're going to choose this red arrow here to be our ray. Then we place the center point of the protractor on the vertex of our angle. So see, the center point of our protractor lines up with the point of the angle, and then we use the guidelines on our protractor to measure this red arrow right up with the number 0. Then, step 3, we use the numbers counting up from 0 to measure the angle. Stop when you get to the next ray. Now notice our angle is pointing a different direction this time. Last time we counted up from this 0 over here. This time our angle is pointing in a different direction, so we have to count up from the 0 that's on the outside. That's why you see there's 2 sets of numbers. It just depends if your angle is pointing in one direction or the other direction. So remember, always the rule is we count up from 0. We can't count up from 180. So counting up from 0, 0, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100, 110, 120. So you can see that our other side of the angle, this black arrow here, is pointing at the number 120. So we counted up from 0 to 120. That's a big angle. If you remember, over 90 degrees, this big number 90 here, means it's obtuse. So we have an obtuse angle of 120 degrees. Now the second part is, how do I draw an angle? To draw an angle, you want to follow these 4 steps, and these 4 steps will be written down in your notebook. First, you want to draw the bottom ray and vertex. So remember, a ray has one end point and one arrow. That's step 1. Then you're going to place the center point of the protractor on the point and have the bottom ray point to 0. Much like when we are measuring the angle, we're going to line up one of our rays with the center point and the number 0. And notice our degree we're trying to get to is 40 degrees. So now we're going to use the numbers counting up from 0 to measure the angle. We're going to stop when we get to the degree measure that we want. So we're going to count up from 0, 10, 20, 30, 40. That's the number we wanted. So I'm going to put a little dash mark on the outside of my protractor. Same if I was using one in person. I would first draw my ray, then I would count up to 40, make a little dash on the outside. Then I'm going to have to connect my angle. So I made the little dash, but to connect my little dash back to my center point, my vertex, I'm going to use just the edge of this protractor because it's a nice straight line, so I don't have to guess, and line it up to draw a straight line connecting it back to the point and creating my angle. So there we have how to draw angles. Nice job today.